Today I'm going to show you some tips of how you can keep the edges of your tapestry nice and straight. Hello lovelies, thank you so much for joining me today. Today's video is a tapestry tips video, and it is the one that I wish that I had when I first started tapestry. How do you keep the edges nice and straight? It's almost like a mystery, but I will give you a few of my top tips. Feel free to add your own in the comments. Let's get started. Number one is the lazy line technique. If you've heard of this one, I may have mentioned it in a previous vlog, but this one is a technique that means that instead of weaving from one side of your tapestry all the way to the other, you actually work in little blocks. This is a great way to ensure that your tapestry keeps a correct tension and doesn't pull in at the edges. I'll show you what I mean. So with the lazy line technique, we are not weaving all the way from one end of the tapestry to the other. When I've woven this tapestry, I've broken it up into a series of about 18 warp threads, and then I've woven in lines. It's a bit hard to see on this tapestry because I'm pretty much at the same point across the whole lot, but you can see here that I go up like this, and then the next lot is another 16, and that will go up like this. So this is a great way of ensuring that your tension stays straight across the whole tapestry. So in this tapestry, you can very clearly see the lazy line technique in action. So there's the line, and you can see another one there, and you can see another one there. So basically, I haven't woven from here to here in one lot. I've broken it down to about 16 warp threads to make sure that the tension stays correct. And as you can see, that keeps a nice straight edge. Number two is doubling up the warp threads on either side of your tapestry. Now this is something that I found in some random blog years ago when I first started tapestry, so I can't give credit where credit's due, but doubling up on the edges does give quite a more solid edge, and for some reason it seems to give a little bit more control on those edges. I know that some people tend to have a guide that they put on the edge that they don't weave with. It's just a guide. I found that didn't really work as my warp moved around too much. But if you are also having problems with that, then try doubling up the warp on either side and see if that helps. Number three sounds really obvious, but it's actually to be really careful when you turn your weft around on the edges. So normally you pick about 3 or 4 warp threads when you're weaving, but when you go around the edge, just do that single turn and then continue weaving, making sure that you keep an eye on that turned weft to make sure that it doesn't pull in too much. Number 4 is to ensure that your tension is even across the whole tapestry. As soon as you have uneven tension, that's going to pull the edges in as well. So when you're doing things like eccentric weft, that really does pull in the edges, so you have to be extra careful. Make sure that you bubble your warp when you're weaving. That's something else that will ensure that your tension stays nice and straight. Also, when you get to the top of the tapestry, I know a lot of people tend to get excited when they're about to finish a tapestry, and then they tend to rush it a little bit, and that's another danger point when your edges can go in at the very top. So when you're getting close to the top, just keep patient, keep slow, and make sure that your tension stays the same throughout. Number 5 is to measure your tapestry as you go. So I always have a tape measure with me right next to my loom, and every now and then I either measure the width of my tapestry or I measure the space between the side of my loom and the edge of my tapestry. And I write that down so that as I'm going, I can continually measure it and just make sure it's straight. When I visited the tapestry weaver Kay Lawrence in her studio here in Adelaide, she actually told me to use a spirit level, which I don't do, but it's a tip that I'm going to pass on to you. If you are so inclined, use a spirit level. And number 6 is a bit of a last resort, but when you'll finish your tapestry and you feel that it's not completely straight, you can block it. And I do see a lot of tapestry artists block their tapestries. I personally don't, because my edges seem to be pretty straight anyway, but the way to block your tapestry is to wet it. So just use a spray bottle to wet it a little bit, and then you can put it against, say, a pin board or something like that, or a piece of wood, and very gently coax the sides while it's wet, and then let it dry like that. So I have seen tapestry artists use little pin tacks in order to hold the tapestry in place on a grid to make sure that it's all straight. And the theory being that when the tapestry dries, then it dries in that straight sort of way. I'm not really sure about that. I mean, I guess you can give it a go if your tapestry is a bit wobbly on the edges, and let me know in the comments if that works for you. It's not something that I've tried before though, but who knows? So they are the tips, apart from the last one, that I usually use when I am doing my tapestries. And I'm just going to be really annoying as well and just say, practice, practice, practice. The first tapestries that I did, the edges were pretty dodgy, but as I got better and better, my edges have just gotten straighter and straighter. But you know what? I've been weaving for over 10 years now, and I still am very, very careful with those edges. So you're never going to be perfect at it, but at the same time, the more tapestries you weave, the better you will get, the more confident you get, and also you will find your own ways that work for you of keeping those edges nice and straight. And as I said, if you have any more suggestions, please leave them in the comments, because I would love for you to also teach other people who are looking at this video your way of keeping those edges nice and straight. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel, give my video a thumbs up, because it really helps me out, and it also helps the algorithm show other tapestry weavers some tapestry tips. And until my next video, bye!